Hello. Fancy seeing you here. Um, we joked about me doing that beforehand, or
Yeah.
Jeff did, and I think that he wasn't being serious because it was as painful
It,
as we were making it out to be.
it was awful.
Um,
Oh shit.
it was
Oh
terrible,
shit.
but now we know, and it's important to know your limits, you know? Oh God, what's happening? I can hear my own voice coming back to me. Savage. Hello, everybody.
Oh,
Welcome back to another Soundbooth Theater Live. I'm Will Watt, and today we're going to be reading from Kurtis Eckstein. Very different people. Kurtis Eckstein's Omega Squad, which I'm about halfway through recording at the moment, which is great fun. Joining me today, as all of the female characters, is going to be our wonderful Jeff Hayes, our
howdy.
our buxom, bubbly, uh, feminine,
You're a cutie.
enchanté. So yeah, how's your week been, Jeff?
I can't remember still. I'm just like in the middle of I'm still doing things. I can't remember what happened until at some point I take a break and think back.
Ah,
So
I
I'm
know
gonna
the
assume
feeling.
it's
I
been
know.
good.
I
I'm gonna
hit you. I
assume
hit you from the left field as well with that question. It's like, oh shit, I'm being asked, how's my week? I don't know. I have to form an opinion. Oh God. Um, My week was great for anyone who cares. What did I do? Not very much. Stayed at home. The weather's a lot nicer than it has been. So, counting my blessings, counting my blessings. Um, yeah, should we make a start on is there anything else that people need to know about or that we should wax
um
lyrical about?
Yeah, I think that we should tell people, since most of the people who are going to be here right now, well, besides the regular SBT fans who will be here, there's also going to be a lot of pure Kurtis Eckstein fans who may not even know
Oh,
us.
oh,
So
well,
we
I
are.
guess we should introduce ourselves then.
This is Soundbooth Theater, the audiobook production company. We usually do gamelit and lit RPG books, but we are branching off with Kurtis Eckstein here to do this superhero adventure, Omega Squad, and also next week we'll be doing Soulbound to a Dragon, which Annie Ellicott is going to be narrating. So yeah, guys, if you have not been to our channel before, if you've not been to our stream before, please subscribe, like the video, or reserve judgment. When we prove to you that this is a good YouTube video to subscribe to, then do it.
Absolutely fantastic. We've got everything. What's not to love already? So I'm a new narrator for Soundbooth. I've only been working with these guys for a little while, and in fact, nothing that I've narrated has yet graced Audible's
Not yet.
shelves
It's
just
coming.
yet. So it remains to be seen whether I'm any good. But I'm going to try out for you guys today and hope that I can win a few hearts and a
This will
few
be
heads too.
this will be project number 3 for you, right? For
hmm
Soundbooth Theater.
Project number 3, yeah, I think so.
Cheers to that.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot that's kind of like waiting in the sidelines, waiting for release. It's quite a process.
It is. It is. Well, we make things so difficult for ourselves by actually trying to make the audiobook that much cooler.
But I
Uh,
think again, for those of you who haven't been here before, one of the great things about Soundbooth Theatre is that instead of just being like a standard kind of like someone sat in a stuffy room, literally reading a book, we kind of try and make them a little bit more kind of interactive and a bit more like a full kind of radio drama. So there's sound effects and there's multiple voices and there's music and there's a whole ton of other things that kind of like brings the experience a little bit more to life.
there's baby
Um,
bears.
there's baby bears. There's baby bears. Most importantly. So yeah, so we kind of set ourselves a little bit apart from kind of the rest of the audiobook crowd in that respect, and we hope that you like it.
All right, cool. So
Great.
Curtis has us working on chapter 1 and
Mhm.
chapter 2 today.
Mhm.
And we're just going to give you a little bit of a preview. Now, I'm going to be doing the female voices for this stream. Don't freak out, um, because
We're a
that's
very
not,
open-minded audience. This is 2019.
yeah.
That's cool. Live your truth.
But we are going to be hiring at least one or two other female, other fe- one or two other narrators to do female voices who will be female, but I will probably be filling in just a few of the voices anyway, um, as
We
far
we
as
like
females
we
go.
like to do we like to do these kinds of things as a bit of a group effort, just
Yeah,
'cause, you know,
yeah.
makes it a bit less monotonous. There's only so much of my voice that people can stand, really,
That's the truth, and I think that goes for all of us.
right? But
But
particularly me, I'm all foreign and stuff, like, you can barely figure out what I'm saying half the time. It's awful. Someone should give me some English lessons.
Charles was giving you so much shit on the last stream
I
about this.
know, I felt victimized.
He's a victimizer, so,
Oof.
it was a welcome to the club moment.
Wow, I feel initiated for sure. I feel initiated. Right, should we give the people what they deserve, which is a little bit chapter 1?
Let's do this.
Let's do it. Okay.
Wait,
This is chapter 1, new recruit.
one more thing. I'm reading the females, and am I doing the general? Major
Uh,
General Armstrong?
you can do General Armstrong if you want to. Yeah, yeah, why not?
Okay,
I wanna
and
hear your, like, best kind of, like, commanding, deep, scary, like,
alright.
you know, I want to be terrified by the end of this. Okay,
Alright, we'll go through my entire range just in this one chapter.
I am excited. After making a few turns, they put me in an empty room with a table and chair. Once I was chained to a hook on the metal table, they left and I was alone again. I looked down to see that all four legs of both the chair and table were bolted to the concrete floor. Now that I was facing the door, I took the time to notice a mirror to my left. I glanced over at my reflection to see a hollow expression. It was like a ghost of who I had seen in the mirror earlier that morning. I stared at my blank face, feeling like the person with blue eyes and brown hair staring back at me was a complete stranger. After a few minutes, a deep voice crackled on a speaker in the corner of the room, forcing me to think again. I looked up at it. I've lost my place. I looked up at it as if expecting to see the man talking to me.
Jacob Knight, let me introduce myself. I'm
Jake! I automatically corrected him, forgetting not to be rude. I hated my full name. The guy paused briefly, but then continued as if I hadn't spoken.
I'm Major General Armstrong. You're looking at life in prison if they prosecute you, and that's assuming you don't get the death penalty.
I didn't do anything, I exclaimed. It wasn't me. The general yelled at me then, annoyed this time by the interruption.
We have the whole thing on camera. And let me assure you, there's only one person responsible, and he is sitting in a chair, chained to a table. Now you can either shut up, or we can ship you off to the most fortified prison in the country. Your choice.
I was speechless. I really am speechless. I didn't know you had it in you to be so gruff and manly. I've got chills, Jeff. I've got chills. This is insane. Oh, sorry. Professionalism out the window. I was speechless. Did they really have it on camera? I needed to see it, but I also didn't want to get shipped away to prison. What did this guy want from me? Satisfied that I was going to keep my mouth shut, the general continued.
As I was saying,
Whew.
if you ever want to see the sky again, then you're going to start working for us. We have a specialized team with people like you, murderers who have nothing to lose. Your old life is over now. You'll either rot in a cell for the rest of your insignificant existence, or do what we tell you. Any deviations from our orders and you're off the team. Rotting in a cell might not seem so bad to you, but we can assure you it won't be comfortable. You'll spend most of your time in a bodysuit with your arms tied behind your back like the lunatic you are.
I wanted to argue, but I doubted it would get me anywhere. Instead, I sighed, bringing my elbows up to the table and putting my head in my hands. The chain attached to my handcuffs was several feet long, which kind of surprised me. It could easily be used to strangle someone, even myself if I wanted. The guy spoke again.
I'll have the leader of the team fill you in on the rest. But first, I need to make sure we are clear. Any signs of disobedience, and you'll wish you were dead. Understand?
I sighed again, pulling my face away to nod. It didn't sound like I really had a choice. The guy yelled at me again.
Yes or no?
Yes, I said quickly. I get it. I waited for him to say something else, but he didn't. Instead, the door opened in front of me, and I was shocked to see a teenage girl skip in with a huge grin on her face. The extremely small shorts and top she was wearing did little to cover her thin body. Her stomach muscles were especially toned, showing a flat six pack, even though she wasn't flexing. Other than her breasts, it didn't look like she had an ounce of fat on her. However, that wasn't her most striking features. Her hair was dyed a vibrant blue, even her eyebrows and eyelashes, and her irises were a vibrant, bright red. For a second, I wondered if she had contacts in, but they just looked so real that I couldn't help but stare at her.
Yay!
She said, clapping her hands together.
Fresh meat. Jacob Knight, right? I like that name.
Jake, I automatically corrected her.
Testy, are we? No matter. I'm Trinity. Trinity for short.
This is incredible. This is if I had my eyes closed, I could be absolutely convinced that you're an entirely different person. I suppose that's the point, right? Like we're acting, like that's what we're supposed to be doing. But
Indeed.
I didn't know you had it in you. Um, she gave me another huge grin, like her joke was actually funny.
Come with me, and I'll introduce you to everyone.
I was about to comment on the fact that I was currently shackled to the table, but then she reached down and grabbed the chain. With a quick tug, it snapped in two like it was made of paper. I couldn't believe it. Either the chain was that weak, or else she was much stronger than she looked. I looked up at her in surprise, and she flashed me yet another grin as she pulled the end of the chain up to her chest, giving it a light tug once it was taut between the two of us. The handcuffs securing my wrists helplessly pulled forward, and I realized that I had just found myself leashed to possibly the strongest person in the building. I stood up immediately, not wanting to find out if she had a more devious side to that innocent appearance. After all, the general had said this was a team of murderers.
Good boy.
She said approvingly.
I'll go slow for you.
She then whipped around and gave me another tug, encouraging me to fall in step behind her. I tried not to look at the dimples in her lower back as we walked out of the room and down the hallway, but her swaying hips made it almost impossible. Her walk wasn't exaggerated. If anything, it was very casual, yet her hips still moved hypnotically. She was wearing a black, shiny belt that held her shorts tight against her waist, preventing them from revealing any more than they already did. Not wanting to get caught checking her out, I instead tried to focus on the back of her head, wondering if she had just dyed her hair today. There wasn't even a hint of her true hair color at the roots. She looked back then, seeming disappointed that I was looking up.
Aw, you're no fun.
She complained with an adorable pout. She then grinned when I focused on her full lips.
Or maybe you are.
Faster than should be possible, she spun around on her heels and was suddenly barely an inch away from my face. I gasped in surprise as I got a close view of her crimson eyes. Definitely not contacts. She quickly tapped me on the nose so gently that I barely felt it, before spinning around again to continue walking. I had stopped dead in my tracks and found my arms being tugged ahead of me as the chain went taut again. She immediately stopped, gave the chain a slight tug of encouragement, and then resumed walking once I had recovered. Every cell in my body was telling me she was extremely dangerous. But I could, excuse me, but I couldn't help but feel excited by that realization, which was a bad thing. I had a girlfriend who might be dead. I sighed and looked down at the concrete floor once I was reminded of why I was here. This girl, Trinity, had momentarily taken my mind off it. It was hard to focus on anything other than her when she was around. She seemed to notice my reaction and misinterpreted it.
Nervous?
She asked in a sweet voice. Of meeting the others? I replied in confusion. When she nodded, I shook my head. No, not at all. Should I be? She paused her gait for a moment, causing me to suddenly be a foot closer to her before I could stop. She then studied me for a long few seconds before responding.
Was your big massacre also the first time you killed? Or are you just feeling regretful that you got caught?
What? No, that really wasn't me.
Uh-huh.
She almost snorted, trying to hide an unexpected laugh as she began walking again.
Nice try, buddy. I already saw the video.
She then tugged me forward a step closer to her so that I was almost at her side, looking up at me curiously.
Unless you have a split personality or something fun like that. Oh, that could be fun. It would be like dating two guys in the same body.
I jerked my hands away from her, and I got the distinct sense she allowed me to do so, that she didn't have to loosen her grip on the chain. No, I don't have a split personality. I just don't remember what happened. I then looked at her suspiciously. Maybe if someone would show me this mysterious video everyone keeps talking about, then I might believe all of you.
Oh, we can do that. I'm sure you'll want to see your handiwork. It was marvelous, really. All that blood and gore. I'm already your biggest fan.
I scoffed in response, hardly believing what I was hearing. You're crazy. Abruptly, Trinity tugged on the chain hard and slipped up between my handcuffed arms. It looked like I was hugging her, but I saw from her unexpectedly cold expression that I'd made a grave mistake. Her hands were instantly on the sides of my face, her fingers curling behind my neck like she was about to plant a kiss. I froze as her hard red eyes stared into mine from barely an inch away. Her lips were so close I could stick out my tongue and touch them.
Now you listen here.
She said in a monotone voice.
I'll let that slide one time since you're new, but never again. You will not call me any names unless it's exceptionally flattering, like beautiful or cute, especially not crazy. Are we clear?
I couldn't nod my head. Her hands were like vice grips. I was reminded again that I didn't appear to feel pain because the pressure she was exerting gave me the impression that I normally would have found it extremely uncomfortable. Instead, it was only threatening in the way it communicated her seriousness. When I didn't respond right away, she cleared her throat. Yes, I understand. And you are beautiful. A smile touched her red eyes immediately.
Good boy. I think you might be fun after all.
In a fluid motion, she slipped out from underneath my arms and was tugging on the chain again.
So, do you have a girlfriend?
She wondered as we continued walking. Yes, was my automatic response before my thoughts caught up with me. I mean, I did.
She break up with you?
Trinity asked in a mockingly sad tone. No, she. I wasn't sure if I should be sharing this information with this clearly mentally disturbed girl dragging me around like a dog.
She what?
She repeated, not looking back. Her voice was sweet and almost sounded sincere. Almost. She was with me at the mall. Unexpectedly, Trinity laughed.
Wow, you're as evil as they come. Killing your girlfriend like that?
Stop it! I immediately replied, getting annoyed at her teasing. The potential death of my girlfriend was not funny,
I guess I better watch out for you.
she continued.
If that's how you treat the people you love, I don't even want to know what you do to your enemies.
I said stop! I yelled, pissed now. Why do you have to be such a... She abruptly stopped and glared at me, cutting me off.
A what?
Her sudden anger completely dissipated my own, making me briefly forget why I was upset in the first place. I studied her posture, feeling confused about her reaction. Wait, what did you think I was going to say?
I don't know. You tell me.
She looked just as pissed as I had been. I eyed her suspiciously. Are you going to hurt me if I do? Trinity turned to face me and crossed her arms, hiding the end of the chain between her chest and forearm.
I guess I'll let it slide if you're honest.
However, despite her words, I didn't trust the fact that she had essentially strengthened her hold on the chain. Sighing, I took a deep breath and just decided to be honest. Well, I was going to say, why do you have to be such a jerk? You consider that calling you a name? Unexpectedly, her expression softened.
No, I guess I am being a little insensitive.
Her eyes then narrowed.
You don't cuss.
It was more of a statement rather than a question. I answered anyway. No, not really. Why? What did you think I was going to say?
Bitch.
She said it harshly, almost as if she were calling me it. I stared at her in surprise. What? No. As a general rule, I don't call anyone that. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've never actually used that word in my entire life. She eyed me carefully for a few more seconds, as if deciding whether or not she believed me. Finally, she nodded.
Then we should get along just fine.
She abruptly spun around on her heels to resume walking. I took an extra large step to catch up with her. Do people actually call you that? She just shrugged in response, the anger in her voice completely gone.
Not regularly. Anyone who has dared say that to my face is dead.
Oh, I realized that shouldn't surprise me given what I'd seen so far. Trinity abruptly laughed again.
You must really have a split personality, because I can't imagine a goody-goody like you killing all those people.
I scoffed. I told you it wasn't me.
And I told you I saw the video myself. Just to make sure your evil half doesn't get you killed with his mouth.
Sorry.
Oh,
There is this age old phenomenon, which is that every time I'm drinking a cup of tea, not every time, but I'd say like maybe like one in every 5 cups of tea that I drink, when I get to the dregs at the very end of the cup, for some reason my body is like, oh hey, like why not inhale them instead of swallowing them today? And I end up choking on them. So that's what just happened. So sorry about that. So I'm gonna just cap off the rest without killing myself.
okay. Please do.
I'm good. Okay. It's a difficult business, this whole drinking thing. I'm new to it. It's it's taken me a while to adapt. Um, and now I've lost where we are on the page. Did you just see the killed with his mouth? Was that your last?
Yes, that was the last thing I said.
Cool. Whew. I sighed in resignation. I really don't have a split personality.
That's what they all say, babe.
I stopped abruptly, and surprisingly, she did too, instead of forcing me along. Okay, serious question, and I'm not trying to be rude.
Yes?
She asked expectantly, her red eyes soft. Do you have a split personality? Her red eyes immediately narrowed again, and she didn't say anything, so I quickly continued. I promise I'm not trying to be rude. You just talk about it like you're really familiar with the subject. Her expression didn't change, and I started to feel uncomfortable by the silence. Normally, I wouldn't be such a wimp, but it was like all my instincts were screaming at me that she was highly dangerous. Finally, after a few more seconds, I let my eyes drop to the floor with a sigh. Okay, I'm sorry. Please don't hurt me. Trinity smirked.
Good boy.
I looked up at her to confirm that she wasn't pissed. Even her eyes appeared to be grinning as she continued.
No, I don't have a split personality. I'm more than comfortable with who I am. Generally, that kind of thing only happens when your psyche can't handle two polar opposite desires, like a murderous bloodlust and strong morals at the same time. So rather than having a meltdown, the mind projects itself by snapping in two. Voila! Split personality.
Despite the fact that her answer sort of sounded logical, I was still skeptical. Is that really how it works? She responded with another smirk.
Maybe. Or maybe I just made that up.
She shrugged, beginning to walk again. I was trying to keep eye contact with the camera then. I was trying to immerse you guys, and then I realized I need to be looking at the iPad in order to failed at that one. She shrugged, beginning to walk again. I really wanted to keep talking to her, finding myself more and more interested despite my better judgment. But she interrupted my thoughts.
Oh, now I lost it. Good boy. All right, here we are.
She quickly led me through a set of double doors into what appeared to be a small gymnasium. The floor was concrete, but it had painted lines for half a basketball court, as well as a hoop at the far end. There was one set of bleachers to the left and another to the right. The room was completely empty except for three other people. There was a guy with a basketball making shots aggressively like he was angry. There was a guy with a why was that question? There was a guy with a basketball making shots aggressively like he was angry. He rapidly bounced the ball to a new position, acted as if he was blocking someone who wasn't there, and then would shoot a hoop only to do it all over again. He looked to be fairly tall, certainly taller than I was, but also really skinny. He appeared to be old enough to be out of high school. Without initially intending to, I realized I was automatically sizing him up, evaluating whether or not I could take him in a fist fight. I didn't usually consider myself to be someone who got involved in physical altercations, but this guy gave the impression that he was the exact opposite. To the right, sitting on the bleachers, was another guy and a girl. The guy was also tall like the first, but unlike the angry basketball player, he was well built. He also looked a lot older than everyone else, possibly as old as 30. The girl, on the other hand, was just as small as Trinity. She had dark brown hair, brown eyes, and a dark complexion. Granted, while it was hard to tell, it looked like this girl might be in her 20s. She had that eternally young appearance, like someone who would still look like a teenager even in their 30s or 40s. As soon as Trinity escorted me into the room, everyone's attention shifted to my direction. Took you long enough, the basketball player commented, dropping the ball. What? Did he stop up at some closet on the way to give him a tour? Unexpectedly, Trinity whirled around and grabbed my arm in her embrace, almost crushing it against her chest.
Why, yes, actually. He was very impressed with my blue pubic hair. I had to make sure the new guy felt welcome.
I was shocked by what she was insinuating, but even more so by her admission that her pubic hair was blue. Wait, you dyed that too? I asked in disbelief. She looked up at me with a pout.
You're supposed to play along, silly.
I was about to respond, but then realized that the girl on the bleachers was curled over. She was laughing so hard.
All right, which girl is this?
Ava.
This is Ava.
Mhm.
Trinity doesn't dye her hair, idiot. That's her natural hair color.
I stared at the girl, dumbfounded, before looking back down at the blue haired creature holding on to me. Trinity? Sounds like a drain cleaning product. Trinity grinned in response, tucking her thumb into the top of her shorts.
Wanna see?
She asked innocently. I really did want to see if I was being completely honest, but I was quickly distracted by the basketball guy coming up on me aggressively. Much to my disappointment, Trinity abandoned me the moment he got close enough to get in my face. His green eyes were hard and piercing. So, this is the new guy, huh? You don't look so tough. The girl on the bleachers chimed in then.
Come on, Zayden. It's not fair to fight him while he's in handcuffs.
The pissed off basketball player, Zayden, sneered at her. You and I both know he doesn't need his hands to fight. And whoever said I fight fair? The guy then glared at me again. He was way too close for comfort. What was it with these people? I thought about taunting the guy, but decided against it, turning my face away to look at Trinity. Jeez, what is it with you people and your lack of personal boundaries? Hey, look at me when I'm talking to you. I complied out of annoyance. This guy was really getting on my nerves. He brought his face even closer and held up his hand, shoving his finger onto my forehead. Now you listen here, you little punk. Don't go thinking you're a badass just because you've killed a few people. That was child's play compared to the things I've done. I just glared back at him in response, waiting for him to be done. That's when I realized his finger wasn't just sticking on my forehead, it was burning into it. I probably would have noticed sooner if it wasn't for my lack of ability to feel pain, but I could smell the burning flesh and heard the sickening sizzling. I realized what he was doing. It was a contest to see if I'd give in and ask him to stop. He wanted me to wimp out. So I just stared him down, not caring if he did permanent damage at this point. In that moment, all that mattered was not losing this first fight. However, after a few more seconds, my brain began to take over, and I realized having a scar in the middle of my forehead for the rest of my life wasn't ideal. I tried to get out of it without backing down, speaking in an indifferent tone. Look, buddy, it's been a rough day for me, so if you don't mind, how about you give the new guy a little break? Zayden sneered. Oh, I'll give you a break, all right. Abruptly, Trinity finally chimed in, her tone authoritative.
Okay, you've had your fun. Now back off. Armstrong will be coming in soon.
Surprisingly, he listened without hesitation and took a step back, scoffing. Whatever. He then pointed his finger at me. Just watch yourself, asswipe. I really wanted to reach up to my forehead and feel the damage he'd done, but I also didn't want to give him the satisfaction of my expression when I realized how bad it was. I glanced over at Trinity, secretly thankful that she'd put an end to it. But she didn't return my gaze right away, instead, staring at my forehead with wide eyes for a few seconds before looking down half an inch and locking onto mine. For a moment, I was afraid it was even worse than I suspected, but then that thought left my mind as I became trapped in her gaze, unable to look away. I briefly wondered why I was becoming enthralled with her so rapidly. I knew it was mostly physical attraction, but there was something else about her that was alluring. I felt helpless to look away until she nodded to herself and directed my attention to the bleachers.
Right. Anyway, the girl there is Ava. She can turn into a shadow and move through solid objects. They call her Ghost, which we all think is lame, so we usually refer to her as Shadow when we are using code names in the field.
Seeing the shocked expression on my face, she paused just briefly before continuing.
And the big guy is Zane. He's basically a werewolf, although he also has some influence over animals, especially predators. His code name is Alpha. He's been on this team the longest, even before me.
She then directed my attention towards Zayden, who had walked off to go grab the basketball again.
And you've already met Zayden. He can heat objects up, including his own body. The literal definition of a hothead.
I heard that, Zayden snapped, but he didn't look in our direction.
As I was saying,
Trinity continued.
he can actually set his body on fire without doing any harm to himself, as well as control fire. They call him Devil for obvious reasons.
What is this? A superheroes club or something? I asked jokingly. I realized it was normal for the military to use code names, but still, was this real? The guy on the bleachers, Zane, scoffed at me. Superheroes, right. More like supervillains.
We are forced to do good things.
Ava added. I looked at them briefly before returning my gaze to Trinity. And what about you? I wondered seriously.
Oh, me?
She asked playfully.
I'm a lot of things, I guess.
I've had various code names over the years, but currently it's Succubus. I bet you'll never guess why.
Because you're hot? I wondered, not even trying to be shy about it. I really did want to find out if she was telling the truth about her blue pubic hair. She smirked at me.
Oh, keep up those compliments and maybe you'll get lucky.
Zayden scoffed before calling out to me, "Word of advice, shithead? You don't want any of that." Trinity gave him a death glare, but then returned her smile toward me.
Sorry. Someone in the chat. Someone in the chat said 10 out of 10 convincing trap. Oh
Amazing.
boy.
It's a new skill. You could do like, I don't know, one of those like phone operator things where you're like, "Hey there, what are you wearing?" Like, you could
Okay.
have quite the clientele. It could be a nice little side hustle.
Anyway, I'm unequivocally the leader of this little group, since I'm the most lethal. In the field, you do as I say, no questions asked. Understand?
Where am I? Oh, right, of course,
Good boy.
she said cheerfully. I heard Zayden scoff again as he continued to shoot hoops. It made me wonder if she had given this type of treatment to everyone at some point. Was he jealous now that he was old news? I knew I should be careful. It would be foolish to think I was something special to her. However, I still couldn't help wishing that was the case. Ava chimed in then.
So, Trinity, are you going to release your new pet, or just leave him handcuffed all day?
Trinity glanced at her before frowning at me.
Well, I figured he would get himself out, but I'm sure our dear Major General Armstrong would prefer I at least spare the handcuffs, since I already broke the chain.
She then fished out a small key from her back pocket and closed the gap between us to undo the restraints. I was a little surprised she hadn't used the opportunity to make a sexual innuendo about keeping me in handcuffs, but it appeared she was done teasing me, for now. Once my hands were free, I rubbed my wrists briefly, even though they didn't hurt, before dropping them to my sides. She was still fairly close, so I lowered my voice to speak to her in a whisper. "You really think I could have gotten out of them myself?" Her eyes narrowed before she stepped even closer.
You really don't remember what happened, do you?
I shook my head slightly. No, of course not. When I saw the mischievous look in her eye, I quickly continued in annoyance. And it's not because I have a split personality. She grinned at me and leaned even closer.
Well, a word of advice then. You need to figure out how to use your abilities, because you'll be needing them in this mission. Normally, the Major wouldn't add you to the team so soon. There are several oddballs waiting to join, but your abilities are important to the success of our next assignment.
My eyes widened as I registered what she was saying. "How soon?" I whispered. She studied me with her red eyes for a few moments before answering,
Right now.
and on cue, the doors behind me opened and the general walked in. It's like she has ESPN or something.
Yeah, like ESPN.
Totally.
Yeah.
Amazing. So that was our sample for chapter one. Um, I feel like I'm missing out because I'm not in the chat. Let me open it up and see what
Yeah,
people are
check it out.
saying.
People people are being wily.
People are being wildly complimentary of me. I'm hoping is the case. Soundbooth Theater. Where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Here we go. Live right now. Chat, 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 chat. Jeff could scam money out guys' MMOs without having to use a voice modulator. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm loving this. Um, what's an amazing book? I would love to hear Will do it. This book? I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
He's doing it.
Coming soon. Oh wow, we've got a really busy chat. Oh,
Yep.
oh, Sin's here. Hey Sin, how you doing? Oh, amazing. I wonder if I can like keep the chat open whilst also having the script open. That would be
Oh, just on your tablet?
yeah. Does anybody know how to do like a split screen situation on an iPad? Is that
No, I
possible?
I don't think that's possible.
Damned Apple.
Yeah, they're
Grr.
behind. They're
Never
behind.
mind. Ugh. Well, no matter. Fantastic. Should we move on to our second scene for the evening?
Yes. Okay. Who else is in this scene?
Let's see who is in this scene. I think it's the same characters as before. From what I remember. Yes, Trinity, Ava, Zayden, Zane. Oh, it's only 3 pages.
Yeah.
This
Pretty
one's a
short.
shorten. Yeah. Should we go for it?
Let's do it.
Let's give it a go. Amazing. So this is part of chapter 2, which is entitled Succubus. Zane is speaking first. Cool. Please tell me you know how to use your other abilities. When I hesitated, he slammed his hand over his face. Shit, you have got to be kidding me. Zayden cursed too, and even Ava looked alarmed. Trinity tried to smooth it over, speaking like they were making a big deal out of nothing.
Oh, it will be fine. Using our abilities is like breathing, so he'll figure it out in plenty of time.
Zane suddenly, he didn't smile at all. Zane suddenly turned his fury on her. Very different. You knew? This entire operation depends on him. If he fails, we might as well all be dead. Our primary target can suck the blood right out of us. He then looked at me again. Do it. Do it right now. I want to see it. I flinched back against his sudden wrath. Fun fact, in British, we pronounce that word wrath, and I have to try so hard not to say wrath. And it's spelt the same. It's ridiculous. I don't know why we say wrath. And so I'm like, I flinched back against his sudden wrath. I flinched back against his sudden wrath. He gave me a hard look before realization crossed his face. Do you even know what your ability is? He quickly recovered from his shock when I couldn't answer him. Trinity, we have to call this off. I'm not going to throw my life away just because you want to hope for the best. Shit, don't be stupid. Trinity was perfectly calm and level-headed as she responded.
Zane, in the last 3 years, how many times have I made a mistake as your leader?
None, but he wildly gestured towards her legs draped over mine. You also aren't giving me much confidence that you aren't being biased about this guy. She sounded a little more annoyed when she replied, but refused to move from her position.
Just because I want to play with him a little doesn't mean I can't think clearly. I just broke his arm, for heaven's sake. You really think an emotional little girl could have done that?
They both stared at each other for a solid minute as Zane thought it over. Finally, he shook his head and sighed. Fine. Don't make me regret trusting you. Zayden scoffed. Can't regret anything when you're dead. But he immediately fell silent when Trinity gave him another death glare. It was awkwardly quiet for awkwardly quiet. It was awkwardly quiet for a few minutes. At first, I was hesitant to break the silence, but I realized their lives depended on me being able to use my ability. This wasn't the time to be shy. Look, can someone at least just tell me what I supposedly did at the mall? Maybe if I at least knew what my ability was, then I could figure out a way to use it in time to prevent us all from getting killed. Zayden scoffed again. Probably can't die with an ability like that. Another stupid immortal like our dear princess. My head snapped in his direction as I processed what he had just said. Then I slowly looked over at Trinity, who was staring at the wall away from everyone else. Trinity, you're immortal? I asked, breathlessly. She glanced at me briefly before looking away and shrugging.
Not immortal like I can't die. More like it's very difficult to kill me. And as long as I'm not killed, then theoretically I might live forever.
Really? How old are you? She finally looked at me.
16. Why?
Then how do you know you're immortal? She sighed.
They have a pretty detailed database of known abilities. Their computer is very good at using information about each of us, including lab results, and extrapolating the potential implications of our superpowers. In my case, they tested my DNA before and after my first mission, showing that even the slightest imperfections in its structure were fixed after I used my ability.
When she saw I was confused, she continued.
Aging is just a symptom of DNA damage. Perfect DNA means no aging. No dying, either.
So, I wasn't sure if I should ask, but I didn't see any reason why I shouldn't know. Everyone else knew. What's your ability then? Trinity stared at me for a solid minute before answering. Her red eyes studied my face intently. I wasn't, excuse me, I wasn't sure what she was looking for in my expression, but she didn't, I'm hiccuping like a bad boy, but she didn't seem to find it, which appeared to be a good thing.
I basically suck the life out of people. Codename Succubus, remember? It's not that original.
Oh, was all I could think to say. Despite what she had said, I didn't think her current code name was very revealing because I still had no clue about the details. After a few seconds, my curiosity got the better of me. So, how do you do it? Like, you aren't going to strip on the battlefield or anything, right? Trinity burst out laughing at that. Zane and Ava started laughing too, and even Zayden cracked a smile. Once she recovered enough to speak, she replied,
No, silly. It's not that literal.
"Well, I'm glad I could amuse you," I responded. I was grinning too. It was hard not to, especially when everyone else was giggling over my comment. At the very least, the mood had lightened significantly. So then, how do you do it? Can you do it through your clothes? As I spoke, I slowly slid my hand onto her knee that was resting on my thigh. Or do you have to be skin to skin? She glanced at my hand and then up at me.
Wow, you're really playing with fire now, aren't you?
Feels like it, I admitted. Thing is, I don't feel like I'm in more danger when you touch me. It's more like just a constant awareness when I'm around you.
Huh. That sixth sense of yours is pretty amazing after all.
She then paused, glancing at my hand on her knee again as she spoke.
My radius is roughly 70 feet, and there's no limit to how many people I can do it to at once. I could suck the life out of everyone right now in this vehicle, as well as the vehicle behind us. No need for touch.
I quickly glanced up at everyone else to see their reactions. They were all staring into space while she spoke, no one seeming surprised. They all knew. Her saying it didn't change that fact. Glancing back at her, I gave her a half smile. Terrifying indeed. She crossed her arms in disbelief.
You certainly seem to be handling that little revelation well.
I sighed. I guess I kind of already knew to an extent. You just confirmed what my sinuses were already telling me. You just confirmed what my senses were already telling me. I then paused and grinned at her. Granted, I said you were a danger to me. I never said I wasn't confident I could win if it came down to it. Trinity's eyes suddenly bugged out of her head. Everyone looked at me in surprise, too, stunned that I had really just taunted her. The succubus who could kill them all on a whim. Trinity recovered and scoffed.
Wow, hotshot. You're really tempting me to put you in your place.
What would happen if you did? What, what would happen if you did? I wondered. Would I die right away? If I didn't die, would I recover? Would my lifespan be permanently shortened? Trinity's eyes narrowed in response to all my questions. I gently rubbed my hand over her knee, catching her attention. She looked down at it and then up at me with a softer expression. I tried to reassure her. You know I would never attack you, right? I'm not actually a heartless murderer like you. I kept my tone lighthearted despite the truth in my words.
That we know of.
She teased back. I groaned in annoyance. I don't have a split personality." She chuckled, and then sighed, placing her warm hand on mine.
When I do it, it doesn't kill people instantly, although they generally can't attack me while it's happening, from what I've heard.
She glanced at Zayden, and a new realization occurred to me. She continued.
It's extremely unpleasant. However, they've shown that it's completely harmless unless I finish. I reap no benefit unless I kill someone, and likewise, the victim will have no lasting damage from it. Basically, it's an all or nothing ability. Either they die, or they don't.
Have you ever killed someone accidentally? She immediately shook her head.
No, I know exactly when it's going to kill, and I can actually draw the process out longer if I want. I've used it for 5 minutes before without killing the person, and I've never made a mistake when using it for non-lethal purposes.
She glanced at Zayden again and then back at me.
Why? You want to experience it yourself?
I thought about that for a moment before continuing. That might be a bad idea. She grinned at me and leaned forward slightly.
Oh? Chickening out?
Her red eyes were practically dancing with amusement. I shook my head. No, it's not that. It's just all of you are confident that I just massacred a bunch of people and I don't remember a thing. Probably not a good idea to provoke that kind of ability by threatening my life. For all we know, that very well may be what set me off in the first place. Someone threatening my life. Trinity leaned back as she evaluated my serious expression. They were all looking at me now, considering my comment. After another minute, she spoke.
Well, I guess if you can't figure out how to use it in time, then I can just try to provoke it out of you.
I nodded, causing her eyes to widen again in surprise. That's fair. However, make sure none of her comrades are around, and when you do, I turned to look at her fully, gripping her knee tightly. Her eyes widened even more at my sudden intensity. When you do, Trinity, run. Run as fast as you can. Dun dun dun.
Done. Cool.
And that is
Man,
it. That is the end of our chapter 2 excerpt.
I'm getting excited about this book, man.
Yeah,
This
it's
is really
good. It's
cool.
good fun.
I love the characters.
Yeah, it's good. There's a lot of character development. It's very cool in that respect. And it's part of a series as well, I think, right? It's the first one in kind of like a series. So hopefully we're going to be able to see like a lot more happening with the same kind of cast of people that they've got in here.
Indeed. All right.
Good times, good times, good times, good times. What are people talking about being uncomfortable? Characters
Uh,
being uncomfortable. On the other hand,
gaming chairs, I think.
gaming chairs.
Those race car looking ones.
Oh, yeah. To be honest, most ergonomic chairs are really uncomfortable for me. This is the most boring topic of conversation I can imagine. For why am I talking about this? But I
They,
find it very difficult sitting in most chairs. They're not good for tall people.
they're the ones talking about it. Okay, we're playing to the audience.
Exactly. I feel like I feel legitimized by other people finding it as fascinating as me. Um, Fab. Well, this has been fun. My iPad battery's about to run out, and
Perfect timing.
exactly, right? Exactly. This has been great. So this has been Omega Squad by Kurtis Eckhart, not Kurtis Eckstein.
No.
Kurtis
Eckstein,
Eckstein, not Kurtis
not
Eckhart. Oh my
yeah.
god. Uh, I will always get something wrong. Always. It is my brand. Um, so yeah, we hope you've enjoyed it, and give us a thumbs up if you like the video, and subscribe to us on YouTube if you're not already subscribed, so you can see more of these. There's also a ton of links down in the bio for our Facebook. We've got a Discord channel, as well as a link to the book if you wanted to read it before it comes out.
Before the audio
And
comes out. Yeah.
yes, before the audio's out. Yeah, that makes more sense. If you want to read it before it's out, that's ridiculous. Will shut up. Um, yes. So yeah, this has been great, and have a fab weekend, everybody. I hope you've got amazing plans this Saturday and Sunday. Cool, great. Bye,
Thanks, guys.
everyone. Toodles.